Happy Thursday afternoon, everyone. We will jump in here to honor your time, and I will ask my colleagues to just help monitor the waiting room if we have other folks trickle in. Again, happy Thursday afternoon. I hope everyone is staying healthy and safe and is doing well. We are getting optimistically close to the start of, meteorological spring is coming up for us now. One of those. So spring is on the horizon. All right, today we are very excited to be hosting another program spotlight for you all. Our focus today is going to be on staffing pathways, and we are thrilled to have four panelists who are going to be sharing from our Innovation Pathways community about some of their experiences with staffing for pathways so far. A few quick notes. This webinar is being recorded. If it would be helpful for you, you should notice in the top left-hand corner of your screen an image that looks similar to the one up here. It might actually say like a streaming service instead of Otter specifically, but you're welcome to click on that drop-down arrow, and that will navigate you to a space that you can see live closed captions, a live transcript of today in case that would be supportive for you. So my name is Laura Toda. I'm with the Center for Collaborative Education. I am thrilled to be joined by many of my colleagues today. We always like to pause here and offer special recognition and thanks to all of the important partners that make this work successful. So we are thrilled to be partnered with our DESE colleagues here, Jennifer Gwatkin, as well as Carrie Occasion, and also David Baird. We are also at the Center for Collaborative Education, a team that partners together on this work. So I'm thrilled to be working closely today with my colleagues Diana LeBeau, as well as Kelly Cornell. An honorable mention to our Executive Director at the Center for Collaborative Education, Oscar Santos, as well as our Managing Director, Andrea St. Rose. If you're not super familiar with the Center for Collaborative Education, we are a Boston-based nonprofit. We have been doing a lot of internal work thinking about our mission, so we're happy to be sharing a newly updated mission with you all. A few of you might have seen it at our last opportunity together. But we partner with schools and districts and communities to increase voice and ownership with a focus on equity to reduce systemic racism and support schools to ensure that all students succeed. In this work, in the Innovation Pathways work, CCE is a technical assistance partner, and we are very glad to be partnered to DESE in this project. We're thrilled to have you here in this program spotlight today on staffing. We hope you've been able to participate in other program spotlight series, and we'll make sure we end today with a little bit of information for you about additional upcoming opportunities that might be of interest. So our goals for today is to explore what some of the staffing models and strategies are out there for how we make Innovation Pathways programs work in schools. And as always, something consistent that we try to hold true at all gatherings for folks in Innovation Pathways is to give you opportunities to build connections and to learn across the designee network. Our agenda today, this is really going to be all about you, where it's a sort of a small amount of things that we are giving a substantial amount of time to. So after we get through our opening slides here, we're going to hear from our peer panel. And like I said, you're going to get to hear from 4 of your peers today. And then we're going to have an extended period of time for Q&A. I'm going to ask my colleague Kelly Cornell to reiterate this in just a few moments, but I want to give you a preview that we are going to ask you to be really active in the chat with us today. That's going to be our opportunity to capture what questions come up for you along the way, what wonderings you have, as well as sharing with us if you're hearing any bright spots or anything inspiring from our panelists. And then we will wrap up and we will let you back to your Thursday afternoons at about 3 o'clock. And of course, in this world of online spaces, online meetings, we like to offer you each time just a little something fun to give us a smile and realize that we'll need to be flexible and patient with each other. Glitches come up. Sometimes we hear people we don't expect to hear. Sometimes we welcome pets into the screen or children. It's all welcome. Come as you are. We're really glad to have you here with us today. Okay, so to get us primed for our conversation today, we'd love to know who's here with us. So I'm going to ask you in the chat window, please share your name, what school or district you're joining us from, as well as your response to this question. Which of these people are part of your core innovation pathways planning or implementation team? And I'm sorry, I misphrased that. We're going to invite you to put your name and your school or district into the chat box. And then my colleague Diane is actually going to launch a poll for us here to let us know who's part of your innovation pathways planning or implementation team. So you should see that poll up on your screen right now. We're going to give folks just a few minutes to go ahead and respond to that. Great, we have a lot of responses coming in. Looks like there is a lot of variety happening here. I'm going to go ahead and give you about another 30 seconds if you'd like to respond. It looks like almost 2/3 of the folks here today have had a chance to respond so far. Great. Keep them coming for another few seconds. Fantastic. Okay. I'm going to share this back to all of you all so you can see. And you can see that is quite a spread here that we have for, what the composition of your core innovation pathways planning and implementation team is. If you have any reflections or anything you are sort of thinking about looking at these responses, feel free to contribute them to the chat. We'd love to know if you have any initial reactions to these poll results. All right, and with that, I am going to pass the microphone to my colleague, Kelly Cornell.
Great, thanks so much, Laura. So once again, thanks so much for being here with us today. We have just a couple of context setting slides to share with you before we jump right into why we're all here, which is to hear from our peers on our panel. And so if we could go to the next slide. These should be very familiar to all of you. Here we have the 5 guiding principles for innovation pathways. And our topic today around staffing approaches and models really touches each one of these principles. We know that appropriate and strategic staffing really ensures that you're able to successfully implement each component of your pathway programs. If we could go to the next slide, please. The bulk of our time, again, will be hearing from a panel of peers around their approaches to personnel and staffing their innovation pathways program. But before we jump into that, we wanted to share just a couple of considerations as you plan for design, implementation, or redesign of your innovation pathways programs. The first is really around thinking about building cross-system partnerships that will help you deepen your expertise and support for your program. So we encourage you to think about opportunities you may have to bring in folks like your mass hire partners, local businesses, community organizations, parents, and students. And you can do that in both formal and informal ways as makes sense to your local context. Once you have those supporters and partners in place, ensuring that you clearly delineate roles and responsibilities, and this makes sure that everyone's just on the same page and that they know the next steps and they know their role in the pathway program's overall ecosystem. Through our connections with you all this year, we know that many of you have included school counselors and guidance personnel as part of your core teams, and we saw that again reflected in the poll that you just did. And so including advisors and counselors, curriculum coordinators, and those in student support roles can really help to ensure that all students are being planned for and their needs are being met. And then communication is key, as with every program and every initiative, and it's really key among building and staffing a team. And so whoever's on your core team, we encourage you to set up regular check-ins where you're talking about progress, challenges, and next steps. And the next slide, thank you. Just a couple of other considerations. Where possible, encouraging you to use multiple funding sources to provide enough resources to the program and to sustain or grow your staffing structure that you have in place. And then finally, sort of taking the time to do an inventory of the resources and partnerships that you have on occasion, so like once or twice a year, and creating this inventory of existing pathway-aligned resources can help you determine who you might need to add to your team or to your staff, who's interested and available in joining your team from your school community or your community writ large. And it can also help assist you in identifying gaps and potential need for changes in your staffing program structure. Staffing and personnel considerations really touch, again, on every aspect of your pathway program. And we're really hopeful that today sparks some thinking for you about a structure or a process that will work well for you in your school or district context. So it's my pleasure to be able to introduce our amazing panelists today. Each panelist we have will give a short presentation about their approach to staffing in their innovation pathway programs. And as Laura had mentioned, we'll then have an opportunity to do a pretty good chunk of time on Q&A after the presentations. And we also have a really nice mix of district types, of program industry sectors that their innovation pathway programs focus on, and demographics of students from each of the districts represented here. So on our panel today, we have Gloria Rubler from Brockton High School, Wes Carter at West Springfield High School, Jason Columbino from Danvers High School, and Sean Flynn at Monument Mountain Regional High School in Great Barrington. So first, I want to say thank you to each of our panelists for joining us today and sharing your approaches to staffing. Quick note for our webinar participants, we want to keep today's event as interactive as possible, and so please feel free to include chat, your questions in the chat. We'll be monitoring that throughout, and we'll use those questions to kick off our Q&A at the end of each presentation, or at the end of all of the presentations, excuse me. So first up, I'd like to introduce you to Gloria Rubler. Gloria is the Career and Technical Education School Counselor at Brockton High School, and she also serves as the Innovation Pathways MyCap Coordinator. She believes that Innovation Pathways represents a challenge in many aspects and embraces a think outside the box motto in her approach to the work. And we're so excited to have Gloria here today. So with that, I will turn it over to Gloria.
Thank you very much for having me here today. And I'm going to be sharing the screen so I can share some slides that I have prepared for this presentation. Okay, so I'm glad to be here today sharing with you which one has been our approach here at Brockton High School in terms of staffing. One of the things that we really did from the beginning, and when I say the beginning is when we brought the grant, is that before even putting things together, we decided to look very closely and seriously about the guiding principles of the innovation pathways, in which we were trying to scaffold through them and look at everything we really needed to do in order to really raise to the challenge of responding to each of them. So we knew from the beginning that all of them will represent for us the need to have people responsible, people that could be committed to work with us in embracing these ideas and the goals that we have. So from the beginning, we come up with a list that probably all of us have this list, a similar list of people that probably we needed within responsibilities for the implementation of the innovation pathway. But even before we started thinking about that, we thought that the best way to look at this was to embrace these from a systemic point of view. So we knew that here in the innovation pathway, the I was really for the innovation. So we decided to do this, and I believe that that's why so far, even though we are in the second year of our program, we are not yet that far, but so far we feel that we were kind of prepared before the storm because we were prepared for it, and I'm going to explain you why. So we looked at this program, and every time we look at this at any program or grant, we try to bring this lens, the system theory lens. We look at the whole system. So we look at certain things that you're doing. Sometimes you have to look at the student and then at the family, etc. But here we were looking at the school, at the center, and we wanted to know how we could work with every single level, like around the school, with every single community member or organization, to make this a reality and to raise to the challenges in terms of staffing and in terms of everything else that is required from us. But so what we did is that we created these, we knew that we needed to look into the community, we needed to look into partners, the industry right away from the beginning, must hire, the college, etc. So we wrote the grant with them. We didn't write the grant, you know, with a team or just a group of people here from the school. We brought people to think about every step of the grant. And so we got all these people on the table. So the first idea was that we could go scaffolding, and we thought about the organization of the center, and we needed everybody to wrap up around so we could use resources. We know by default that in our communities and in all our communities, there are tons of resources. There are tons of grants and programs here and there. And sometimes, somehow we are super disconnected. So we have people here in the school who really like to be connecting the dots and work throughout those layers in the community. They work at the school, they represent the school and different organizations in the community, and then in the colleges, in the industry, etc. So we try to take advantage of that. We wanted to bring also, thinking about that, also a framework in thinking about ecological systems. We need each other. We depend on each other. We can build up of things. So sometimes looking like that from the beginning, we could work better and anticipate things that could come like this one. We thought about that, how we're going to staff a program, for example, that you're just creating and there are no resources, there is no money coming, right? So what can we do? What do we have? So I'm going to tell you what we did. So for every principle that we look at every principle, we identify key players, people at every level in the community, around the community and organizations, etc., that could be thinkers. So we created this think tank, and we thought about people that could come, that had experience, knowledge, information, that could bring all with themselves. We brought them all to the table just to brainstorm at the beginning. So nobody here was telling anybody anything, but we were brainstorming. And their strategy, again, was scaffolding at every single level, at this or part of the level, and then every single one. Continue with the same framework. So these look kind of like that for us. So the first thing is that we identified together all the key elements. First, well, the key partners, but we went through levels. So what we did here, we did with everything that came to the table. So at the beginning, even here, thinking about the key people that needed to be and what they could bring to the innovation pathways, and how they could help us with all the things that we needed. Then this is what we did. We kind of color-coded. We said what organization, what person, sometimes it's a person, organization, etc., at every single level could be helping us here. And then what type of things could they do? And when we had them all distributed like right there, put it on the table, on the board, so we tried to connect the dots. And when we did that, we were creating kind of a systemic map, right? Gigantic, map where we could see what type of relations could be there and what kind of things we could have. So when we did this at the beginning, we brought all those people, because at the beginning we did it thinking about people in the community, all those people to the table to think about these things, and then we approach every single thing the same way. So what happened is that when we were reviewing every single one of the principles, we could identify, the outcomes, what we needed, who will need to take charge of that, who could deliver that, who will be part of that process. And so we were able to think about in a different way. What came to our mind is that we did have a lot of resources, even in the school, different type of programs or different type of things. This is a large school, by the way. I know that maybe it's not the same for all of you. We have 4,000, sometimes 500 students, so it's a lot of people here. But so then we have also a lot of teachers. And it's a lot of people involved in different things. So we try to think about every single program or type of resources that we have, or other resources that we could tap in as well. And then the important thing here was that in terms of staffing us, the people brought their knowledge, their contacts, what they knew, their experience, and also their perspective in every single point. So what they were really able to bring with them at the time that we were working, actually, was their own networking system. So they, with themselves, brought what they have. They all know was that we didn't have access. We didn't know certain things. Oh, but we can, provide this way, or this remediation can be provided this way, or we could help with this. We didn't have that. And so that helped us a lot, because sometimes in terms of staffing, we were thinking, who's going to be doing the remediation with the student, the teacher, someone else? Do we need to hire someone else? So, and then the key things started to come up right there. But if we would have done this before, it could have been very different for us. So we knew also that in order for this to continue working that way, because we thought it's working well, we needed to bring some type of model. How can we really continue being effective? And we felt that energy at the time that we were working in the grant. We felt that we felt we were winners already. We wanted to have these. We were super enthusiastic. And this is interesting, because we know that this was like a grant to start, but we wouldn't have any money. We know that, but we were super enthusiastic, and enthusiasm came really to see how we could work together and keep this team working together. So each of us took certain responsibilities, but at the same time, we realized that we need to keep working together, and we are doing it until today. So we continue doing this. We meet quarterly. We address our needs. We look what we can do. And something else that helped us, and probably because you're still thinking, but where do you get the teachers and all the people and the list that you have at the beginning, right? Like we all have. We were sure that we wanted to continue working this way, but this is what came up of the work that we did. What came up from the work that we did is that we thought outside the box. We think that we knew that we were looking at some type of industry. We look at the blueprints, we put it inside and out, and working with mass hire with the colleges around in the area. We work with Bridgewater State College, Massasoit. At the time, they were already thinking also to how they could address these shortages in healthcare, and they were generating a list at the time, but not only of individuals, occupations in health assisting. They were generating a huge list based on the data they have obtained from the hospitals in the area and healthcare services, saying that, you know what, yes, we need this, but we also need all these things. So when you bring partners like that to the table and they bring this perspective, of course, we started thinking in a different way. We say, well, wait a minute. So this can allow us to do something totally different, because if this is what the kids, if this is what the industry around us really needs, and these are the occupations where the students can really have a job, we want to think about this, not about health assistant. We want to think about the healthcare industry in our area. And from that point of view, things were very different for us. Because then we realized we could serve the students even better. They could get more engaged if they were working towards something that was matching also their interests. So these create a huge needs assessments. We participated as well. And then evaluating the resources that we have in the school. We had a lot already here of courses and classes and programs that we could use for that, and to channel those things so the students could have those two technical courses that they needed, and work with the community college and the state school so the students could continue with those courses, and there will be realistic pathways for them and higher level courses that they could take. So that was really interesting. So
Gloria, I'm so sorry to interrupt, and I think you might be wrapping up, but
Yeah,
we've got,
yeah.
I want to make sure we have plenty of time for our other panelists.
Okay, yeah.
And so I wanted to just give like a 30-second or minute or 2-minute warning.
All right.
Time.
Very good. Thank you. That's good. We have a timekeeper. So, because you get enthusiastic, and we know that that will happen. So anyway, so instead of creating a cohort, and that's the point here, we decided to track the students. So instead of having a cohort that will require from us to have, this teacher or the other teacher and all the things, we use the resources that we have. We are tracking the students as they move. That creates flexibility for the students, but also for us in the organization, so we can use the resources that we have. Instead of the students, for example, for supports for students, special needs or ELLs that we already have, that we are working in other programs, so we could consolidate those things and do workshops for the teachers in group models instead of working one-on-one and things like that. So really thinking and scaffolding everything and using the resources. We have used this model at every single level, and that has been really good for us. So far, so good. We continue working as a team, and I think that so far, as I said, we are in our second year. I know we are not yet in other challenging years, but so far it's working really well for us.
Gloria, thank you so much for sharing. I particularly like the way that you highlighted the collaborative approach that you engaged in with your stakeholders. And I'm a sucker for a good sticky note wall, so I loved those images. So thank you so much for sharing with us. And just a quick note, I know that Gloria has another commitment that's pressing her time today, and so she might not be here with us for our open Q&A, but please feel free to put those questions in the chat. If we don't get to them while Gloria is here with us, then we'll make sure to follow up with emails afterwards. So again, thank you so much, Gloria. Next, we're really excited to have Wes Carter. Wes is the Director of Innovation Pathways and Work-Based Learning at West Springfield High School, where they're currently planning to expand an additional 3 innovation pathway programs in addition to the one they already have up and running. And so with that, I'll turn it over to Wes.
Thank you, Callie. So my name is Wes Carter. Like Callie said, I'm the Innovation Pathways Director at West Springfield High School. I wear a few different hats here. I also handle the work-based learning, so pretty much any external internships at the high school. So just a quick overview of West Springfield High School. Pretty traditional high school, public, about 1,200 students serving 9th to 12th grade. Some populations worth mentioning, high needs is right around 55%, economically disadvantaged right around 45%, first language not English 28.1%, and students with disabilities right around 20%. Next slide, please. So just an overview of the innovation pathway we currently have at West Springfield High School. We have the advanced manufacturing program, which we've been running since 2019. Within that pathway, we have a series of technical courses available at the high school, college level courses, and a capstone course was the option for our 5th requirement. Some of our key partners with our pathway include STIC, Junior Achievement, Mass Hire, the Chamber of Commerce, and the YouthWorks Summer Work Program. Also, we like to include college campus and manufacturing facility tours for our students to really get a really great understanding of both of those aspects of their next step after high school. As Callie mentioned, we are looking at expanding our Innovation Pathways program to include business and finance, healthcare, and information pathways next year. So this is just a sequence of the course of the pathway for advanced manufacturing. As you can see, for requirements 1 and 2, that's where students, typically their freshman, sophomore year, are completing of various robotics, technical drawing, or computer science courses. As of junior year, they're eligible for college level courses through STCC, which is Springfield Technical Community College, which is our local community college partner, where we actually focus the students towards mechanical engineering technology for a specific program. Also, students are able to take AP courses at the high school to fulfill requirements 3 and 4. As you can see, engineering design with SolidWorks is bold. It's a really neat thing we've created with STIC. After school, in a normal year, we offer the SolidWorks class after school to solely West Springfield High students on campus. This year it's running remotely twice a week, but it's great that the students are able to work with the professor during those 2 days. And then our last requirement is the IP capstone, which is a research, design, build, and present type of class. With the final presentation at the end of the year, we welcome a guest panel, including some of our industry partners from advanced manufacturing facilities, junior achievement, school administration, and school committee members as well. So our current staffing model, Gloria did a phenomenal job explaining all of the different aspects that go into creating an Innovation Pathways program. So I definitely want to commend her on that. I just went more or less on, the day-to-day, how do we handle it? So myself, I'm the Innovation Pathways Director. So, I handle the day-to-day operations, marketing the program, giving additional career mentoring to the students, connecting with our community and industry partners, attending student goal meetings with counselors, providing internship placement assistance, and then also helping the students plan for their futures. And my position reports directly to the principal and the superintendent of the district. Our technical course teachers, obviously they teach those industry-focused electives. They provide the students with those industry-related skills, knowledge, and hands-on experiences. And then within their content area, they provide additional supports to like the IEP, 504, and ELL populations. One huge thing I'd recommend for everyone with starting an IEP program is get your school counselors involved as much as possible. They're obviously in charge of providing periodic counseling to the students, MyCap completion, course selections, also providing other accommodations to the IEP, 504, and ELL populations, but also making sure the IEP students, along with myself, are fulfilling all of the academic requirements year to year. So as we look at the industry and community partners, Gloria definitely touched on that, thinking about how you're not going to be able to just hire someone specifically for all the different components of the Innovation Pathways program that you want, but you need to look at your community partners, looking at, oh shoot, am I on the wrong slide right now? Sorry about that. I think I'm one. Oops, sorry, 1 second. Can you just go back one slide? I'm sorry, I think we just skipped one. May have missed it. The industry and community partners.
Yeah, let's see. Maybe it.
Sorry.
There you go.
Okay, there we go. Okay, sorry. I thought. Okay, so sorry about that. So as we look to see how we can, be cost effective with running our program, we have to look at what benefits are there out in our community that can really just help supplement and make our pathway robust. So I highly recommend looking into junior achievement in your area because they offer some phenomenal training sessions and workshops for the students. They can embed that into the school day. Also connecting obviously with Mass Hire. There are so many resources that they can offer you. They've been running these fantastic industry related seminars for manufacturing, for healthcare, you name it, they've been doing it if it's a high demand industry. Also, our Mass Hire location has a great career center, which we've actually brought our students from the advanced manufacturing program to the actual facility, where the students are learning, of all different resources, not only now in high school, but when they graduate and they're looking, how can I find a job? What resources are there for me? They can use that career center. Also, with STCC, they've been nothing but awesome for us. Ever since we started running the Pathways to Prosperity program back in 2014, they've helped get our students involved with the mechanical engineering technology program. But even as we're looking to expand to other industries, STIC has been alongside with us, just looking to see how they can help us out. And I highly recommend looking to your local community colleges and see how one hand can shake the other and how you can really send your students there, and we can really make something work. So like I said, STIC offers that after school course. We're thinking about offering more courses on campus, and then also offers dual enrollment courses during the day, at night, online and on the weekends in some cases. It's a great way for, your industry and community partners to come in to your school, in a typical year as a career panel speakers. Right now we're running virtual career panels, mock interviews, which has been phenomenal for students to get those soft skills and learn how to, actually do an interview and what's expected of them. And also that capstone component, if you do have that or you choose to go that route, to bring in people from the outside to just, review the final projects, it really adds a lot of benefits to that capstone. So I highly would recommend that. And moving forward, we're looking at bringing the Westfield Promise Early College Program into our pathway to really focus on bringing a Westfield professor to the high school during the school day, and really focus on teaching the underrepresented subgroups so that we're really getting more students from different backgrounds into our program. So how do we support the high needs populations? Constant check-ins with the special ed educator liaisons, classroom teachers, the ELL director. We run bi-weekly reports that I review, and if there's any interventions needed, we can get that going. I'll touch on this at the end, but it's really beneficial to have a specific IP director or coordinator who can kind of oversee these things, because just a counselor in general has a huge course caseload as it is. So it really allows you to increase the frequency and when you can have student check-ins and really accommodate those students. Also, I want to mention that as the IP director, I'm able to attend annual IEP or 504 meetings to help advocate to get the students additional supports, which can include our STEAM program, which helps not only academically but socially for our students, National Honor Society tutoring, stick tutoring if they're part of the early college program, potentially add a paraprofessional support if needed in certain circumstances, and then also just help them understand what other options are available for help in a class.
Great.
So
Wes, giving a quick 30-second warning.
Okay, I'll go quick. I'm sorry.
For our next
just a quick district and school level consideration. I highly recommend reaching out to your school district and school committee to try to get either a part-time or a full-time director or coordinator who can help put all of this together. Maximize those community and industry partnerships. Bring everyone to the table through a steering committee. Have school personnel, industry partners, higher education institutions, everyone at the table. And like Gloria was saying in that first presentation, you can really determine who needs to do what and when, and you can really make a robust program that way. And the other thing too is market the Innovation Pathways program directly to teachers and to school counselors, whether that's in department meetings, so that they're in the know as to what you're doing with the program, day to day, year to year. And then the last thing, highly recommend reaching out to other Innovation Pathways designees for advice. Apply for additional state and private grants to support your pathways. Highly recommend the Skills Capital Grant. We just applied and we received some funding for that. Attend the IP and the Collaborative for Education workshops regularly. And like I said earlier, the power is truly in the industry and community partnerships, and promote your program as much as possible. The more people that know, the more students are going to get involved. So thank you so much.
Great. Thanks so much, Wes. Really appreciate it. I'm realizing now that when we said our 5-minute timeline, it's just not enough to get through all of the detail that you all have to share, because there's just so much. So I appreciate you, sharing what you did specifically around naming the positions and the specific, what each of those positions were and who they report to. I think was tremendously helpful. So thanks so much.
Thank you.
I'm going to move on to our next panelist. So Jason Columbino is from the Danvers High School, the principal in Danvers. And Jason has led Danvers High in creating innovation pathways in 5 industry sectors, as well as 2 additional teacher-created pathways. So as part of this work, Danvers has seen a dramatic increase in the percentage of their high-needs students taking advanced coursework. And so with that, I'll turn it over to Jason.
Hi, everybody. So I'm Jason. Thanks for having me today. So I wanted to get right into it. So like Callie said, we have 5 different sectors where we have IP designation, as well as 2 teacher created ones for 7 choices. And also a early college designation that's officially pending, but we're really hopeful for that one to have 8 different choices. So it's a school-wide reform effort. And this really came about around right from the get-go when I started as principal, and part of my entry plan was hearing about barriers to access for all students. So really about, we shine the light really brightly on higher achieving students or gifted students. We had that group of students who were taking 5, 6, 7 AP classes. We had a wide range of AP course offerings, but we really had a lot of work to do to give more access for students in the middle. And we also, the reason for engaging in a lot of this pathways work was we had a lot of the pieces in place. And like some of our earlier presenters talked about, for us, it's really around cohesion. So we had pretty broad course selection. We had a senior internship program that had been running for a number of years already. We had a robust advisory program, and the pathways really represented for us an awesome way to connect it all to really increase college and career readiness for all of our students, so that it wasn't just students who knew how to navigate the world and school and make these amazing narratives and stories for themselves, but that we set students up so that every student could have that experience. So then the next slide, what we did is we purposely scaled up the program by grade level. So right now we have 9th and 10th graders in our Innovation Pathways program. We felt like having that was a good way to do it because it would give us some time to kind of flesh out some of the different aspects of the program. We also had a really important part of the work for buy-in was 2 different pathways planning task force, and we were able to secure some grant funding to pay teachers stipends for that work, and that was really helpful. So both task force had around 20 teachers go in there, and one of the really interesting results out of that was, since we wanted every student in a pathway, was 2 teacher-created pathways, because we felt like those 5 industry sectors, while they're the 5 most in-demand sectors for the Commonwealth, it might not meet the needs or interests of every single student at Danvers High School. So teachers came up with non-designated pathways of civics and public policy and fine and performing arts. We also increased our technical course offerings. So for example, we had Project Lead the Way courses in biomed, computer science, and engineering. Increased advanced coursework for co-taught sections. So we purposely made some of those Project Lead the Way courses as co-taughts, which has been really successful. We felt like the setup for those courses being student-centered, hands-on was a good match for students with disabilities, and also a way to increase access to college level, more advanced coursework for those students. And also funding that's been mentioned. So Skills Capital Grant, we were really fortunate enough to get some pretty substantial funding, especially for a district with a demographic like Danvers. It was a really amazing opportunity to get some funding for some really cool equipment, and also leveraging existing course offerings and being creative in matching teacher interest to course offerings. So for example, we had a AP teacher in the history department, and we knew through relationships that he kind of had a side gig and was really into manufacturing, architecture. And we also had our engineering teacher retire. So we moved in one teacher who was excited about the Project Lead the Way, but was also able to shift over the history teacher to teach a section or 2 and build up our capacity in the engineering and manufacturing department, which was great. And some quick results. So it's still, in terms of, I decided to look at, advanced course offering, and especially for high needs, we've more than doubled the percent of students that are taking college level coursework, African-American students across the board, economically disadvantaged students, as well as students with disabilities more than tripled and is well above the state average. So we're really, couldn't be prouder of that work that we've done as a community. And then some lessons learned. One thing, assume high expectations for all students, and don't just assume it, like sing it from the mountaintop, say it. Don't assume that everybody has that mindset all the time, because I know that, and make sure to really, and the reason I say that is to make sure that our actions do that. So, we can talk about doing what's best for students and everyone can agree, but we don't always sometimes act that way. So make sure to always keep that in mind for students and adults, and make sure that it's always about students. And that by no means is an easy thing to do, but it's important. Keep the big picture in mind and also attend to the details. They're both super important and play a huge role. So make sure that scheduling plays a factor into that you don't end up with a grand plan and then end up getting a barrier of, this course can't run this block because there's another class where students need services or something like that. Know your faculty and really build relationships to make creative connections. And then like with the task force, bring in early adopters to help champion the work so that it's not viewed as a top down. You know, to be perfectly honest and transparent, I think at the beginning I had some perception of what is this pathway stuff? What is this thing that the new guy is bringing in? It felt a little top down from some of the faculty, but the teacher task force really helped with that work a lot. That's what I have for today. Any questions or comments? I'm happy to share, talk. We've had site visits. And this is just, you know, we can't say enough about this program. It's really helped us frame the work we've done for our students.
Excellent. Jason, thank you so much.
Thanks.
I really appreciate the advice that you've shared here. I think it's tremendously helpful. And also, I think you've made a really innovative use of making connections to faculty interests. So it was great to hear that. I would invite both Wes and Jason as questions come through the chat, because I think we're going to have to cut our Q&A, I think almost entirely, unfortunately, but feel free as questions come in to field those in the chat while we're hearing from Sean. And so that will transition us to our last presenter of the day, Sean Flynn. Sean is a guidance counselor at Monument Mountain Regional High School in Great Barrington. He serves as the CVTE liaison and the Innovation Pathways coordinator, and is a participant on several task force and committees related to college and career readiness, as well as SEL and wellness. And so, Sean, thanks so much for being here today.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. So hopefully you guys can see my screen okay. So essentially our Innovative Pathways program at Monument is based around two pathways. I'll try to be fairly quick with it. The first one, I'm essentially the lead kind of coordinator of it. I currently am working as a full-time guidance counselor, as well as kind of the liaison for career vocational, as well as the Innovative Pathways coordination. So the two things that I probably want to bring kind of stand out to me that would be important to note are that we basically focused on looking at existing, based around the needs of the Berkshire Blueprint. We knew that advanced manufacturing was a need and an opportunity for employment, as well as the medical care field in the Berkshires. We're a rural high school with 500 students. Specifically, we serve probably close to 7 towns, students coming from all over the place. So we needed to think in terms of integration. What could we do in terms of using existing resources that were available to us, both in our school as well as in our community? So we're heavy on community partnerships. Essentially, our advanced manufacturing applied engineering program that we focused on is being staffed currently by originally a physical science teacher who's now teaching engineering, and our computer science teacher who's now partnering in that work, specifically on a curriculum both in engineering and computer science related through Project Lead the Way. So essentially, you're kind of see kind of the general pathway in terms of the technical courses that we are offering to students. We have a strong relationship with Berkshire Community College already with dual enrollment and concurrent courses. So they were a logical group to come to the table. We have a faculty member here who actually is an adjunct at Berkshire Community College. So we've been working on providing at least, we can offer courses at BCC without students having to leave our campus. And now obviously with virtual learning, it's a barrier in terms of transportation that is no longer there. So we're kind of excited about the opportunities that we can use to tap into BCC now more than we would have prior to the pandemic. So as I said before, one of the things I think that really was productive for us was partnering around a curriculum for engineering, specifically that would create a bridge between kind of more of our hands-on applied learning that takes place in our CVTE programs and more of the traditional academic learning that takes place in our sciences. Project Lead the Way was a way to bridge that and really kind of create kind of a built-in training opportunity for our teachers who have been leading those efforts in that pathway. Our lead industry partner was the Berkshire Workforce Board, Mass Hire. The way in which they came to the table, that's been pivotal to us. We have had a robust internship program for many years that they've been super supportive of. And so they came to the table ready to provide as many resources as they could relative to that. And then community partners that where we've tapped into in the past related to opportunities for internships has been Boyd Technologies, who really were the lead company that developed the Berkshire Innovation Center that just came online the last wintertime. And so within the Berkshire Innovation Center, which is really kind of this hub for STEM in our area, they have been able to provide additional opportunities through programming through the BIC, the Berkshire Innovation Center, that our students have tapped into through their beta program, which is a 6-week kind of a STEM program for students, and then the Future of Technology and Work with an NYU adjunct professor that's been working programmatically with the BIC as well. So that's kind of the primary one that we focused on. And the other one that was a logical one for us to initiate was in medical care. And again, we have two life science teachers that are essentially staffing that. They're developing a second course specifically around the medical sciences that they're going to be working on this summertime and developing an additional curriculum. We have 4 sections of anatomy and physiology. That's the first technical course that students take. And both of those teachers have done PD with shadowing at Fairview Hospital, as well as additional program professional development through summer course through Harvard. As I mentioned previously, the 2 free BCC dual enrollment courses are available, and with Berkshire Workforce Board as a lead partner, and knowing that we were not going to be able to provide internships at the hospitals this year for the first time because of COVID, they actually worked with us to develop 2 opportunities for our students to take a PCA course, personal care assistant course, and that we've had a few students take advantage of. We anticipate we'll have more as time goes on. And then secondly, where the CNA course was being offered for the first time to students of ours. And again, it was difficult in terms of transportation to get students there this year with all the issues around COVID, but we're pretty confident there's going to be a CNA course that's going to be offered to our students next year. And then Fairview Hospital, who's been our community partner, have been fantastic usually in the past, and I'll be meeting with them and to come up with different ways for our students to participate in internships. We're looking more at summer opportunities as well as vacation opportunities, so that we can break any barriers that might be in place in terms of kids being able to access the courses that they need during the school year, as well as being able to tap into doing the 100-hour internship. The post-secondary college placements, again, have always been in place with BCC's nursing program, as well as colleges like UMass Amherst. So again, we felt like we had good partnerships in place across the board. So the other 2 pieces that aren't referenced necessarily on this specific slides are, we also have been working, we have a full-time advisory program now in place that our students are participating in, and we have a team of faculty that are part of the MyCap development, which include a SPED teacher, 2 of Innovative Pathways teacher, and an additional colleague of mine in the guidance department. So that's kind of where we are right now. And hopefully I covered as much of the primary information as possible. This is part of a larger initiative that we're doing that's really linking our CVTE programs, our innovative pathways, and our more traditional programs in order to provide kind of a pathway that each student can be participating in to inform their programming here at Monument. Okay, so I think that.
Thank you so much for that. Unfortunately, we don't have time for a full Q&A, which is really sad, but I would ask each of our panelists if you could, as we're sort of going through our last few closing and debrief slides, if you could in the chat share sort of 1 piece of advice you would have for your counterparts in other districts. If you could share with us in the chat just like a 1 to 2 sentence, what would your advice be around staffing approaches to your counterparts? It would be great to hear that. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Diana to lead us through our last few pieces.
Thank you all. Yeah, and I would just invite our panelists to also skim through if there's any questions from audience members that didn't we didn't have time for in the Q&A. I've seen there's been some good chat around a few of the questions, so thank you for that. So in terms of upcoming events and reminders, we have 3 really exciting events coming soon we wanted to preview for you today. As usual, you can always go to our Innovation Pathways website, and among other things, we have our Innovation Pathways toolkit there, which we hope will be a resource to all of you. And next slide. We also on there have registration links for each of these upcoming events. Earlier today, I also did share the link to the link to one of these, which is the March 24th workshop focused on a student-driven approach to future planning. And in addition to that, we also have a March 31st event focused on student experiences and innovation pathways. And we're really excited to bring 4 students from 4 different pathways from 4 different communities around the state to share their experiences. That will be a little bit more of a Q&A situation. So I really hope you come to that and bring some questions with you. And finally, we will have a March 31st program spotlight, April 13th webinar focused on innovation pathways with an eye towards bringing in some middle schools. So if any of you are in districts and you're thinking, gosh, it would be great to have students learning about innovation pathways before they get to high school, it would be great if our middle school educators were on board. This is the event to invite them to. So again, all of these links are on the website that is linked below and that Callie added to the chat. Next slide, please. So our last request of you all, and I'm going to actually ask if Callie, you're right on top of it. If you could add the HTTP so it's clickable for folks. This link is to a 3-minute survey, and this is really useful for us. This is our first time doing a panel format like this, and we really are eager to hear from you all, how this felt for you, especially as we get ready for our student panel coming up very soon. So much appreciated for you all to be here today. We just ask before you leave that you please follow that link, open that up and do your best to complete so that we can get that feedback for you. I know it's 3 o'clock and many of you have to go. We will stay here for a minute or so in case any of you all need to add a question for the chat or anything like that. But we know that you may have to hop off, and thank you for your time today. Have a wonderful rest of your week.